The great chamber of the Galactic Council was a place of silence and power. For millennia, the voices inside had shaped the fate of worlds. They were the wise, the ancient, the superior. But on that day, a new voice spoke. A human voice. It did not shout. It did not beg. It simply delivered a warning. A warning they chose to ignore. What happens when the oldest empires in the galaxy laugh at a threat from a species they consider to be children? When their punitive fleets arrive to teach a lesson, why do they find only suicidal defiance and an unnerving, strategic silence? And what terrible truth awaits them in the dark when humanity finally decides that the time for warnings is over? They ignored the Galactic Council's warning. Now humanity made them pay. Before the story begins, know that your support is our shield. Subscribe to the channel and like this video to ensure our signal is never lost in the static of the void. Alright, let's begin the story. Then, the Great Chamber of the Galactic Council was a monument to arrogance. It was a place where silence was a weapon and power was the only currency. Delegates from hundreds of species gathered there, each convinced of their own wisdom, their own ancient lineage, their own superiority. On that day, the chamber was restless. Standing in the center on the speaking platform was a human delegate, and his words carried a weight that made the very air seem heavy. Ambassador Kalen Vance did not shout. He did not beg. His voice was calm, but each sentence struck like a warning bell echoing in the vast, silent hall. "We do not want war," he said slowly, his gaze sweeping across the tiered platforms where the elder races sat in judgment. "We have respected your borders. We have followed your trade protocols. We have asked only for the same in return." He paused. "But the raids on our outer colonies must stop. The triumvirate fleets that harass our shipping must withdraw. We ask the Council to enforce its own laws. Fairly. For all species." He let the request hang in the air. "But if you will not," he continued, his voice hardening almost imperceptibly, "if you push us, if you provoke us, if you try to take from us what is ours, you will regret it." He looked directly at the High Archon, a being of immense age and power. "Humanity will not kneel. Humanity will not break." A ripple went through the chamber. Then came the chuckles, soft at first, then growing louder. The insectoid Kthar clicked their mandibles. The ethereal Zent shimmered with condescending light. The Lorian trade masters, stout and gray, rumbled with deep, guttural laughter. High Archon Valerius, leader of the Signan hegemony, leaned forward from his elevated throne. "Human delegate," he said, his voice dripping with amusement. "Are you threatening the galaxy?" Vance shook his head, his expression a mask of cold composure. "No, High Archon. We are warning you. Do not provoke us. Leave us in peace." The words echoed. And then came the open laughter. Deep, mocking laughter from the delegates of the powerful triumvirate empires. They whispered among themselves, the translators catching snippets. Children playing with fire. Their biggest warship is a patrol cruiser. They speak of regret. How quaint. But not everyone laughed. In the shadowed corners of the chamber, a few silent figures watched carefully. The ancient archivists. The enigmatic observers. Species who had seen humans up close. Who had fought against them in small, undeclared border skirmishes. They knew what the others did not. They knew humans had a pattern. Humans endured. Humans adapted. And when pushed too far, humans struck back with a fury that left scars for generations. Still, the warnings were dismissed. The official reports from human colonies about the triumvirate raids were ignored. Complaints about stolen trade routes were buried under layers of bureaucratic procedure. And when the triumvirate, a coalition of the Kthar, the Zenth, and the Lorians, formally proposed a punitive action to discipline Earth for its aggressive expansion, the Council allowed it. After all, the galaxy believed humans needed to be shown their place. Vance was given the floor one last time. His eyes scanned the room, meeting the gaze of every species present. With a calm, steady voice that cut through the smug silence, he said, "You think we are weak. You think we are small. But remember this when the fire comes." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Humans do not forget. Humans do not forgive. And when the day comes that you finally understand what we are, it will be too late." Silence fell. No laughter followed this time. Some felt a chill run through them, a primal warning they could not explain. But the seed of arrogance had been planted too deep. The empires were too eager, too certain. They believed they knew the truth of humanity. They were wrong. In that moment, the fate of the galaxy shifted. By ignoring the warning, by dismissing the words of one calm human, they had set events in motion that could not be undone. And somewhere far away, on a small blue world, humanity prepared. Quietly. They did not shout. They did not make threats. They simply waited. And when the time came, the galaxy would finally understand the true meaning of those words. Do not provoke us. The first raids came like shadows in the night. Triumvirate fleets, commanded by the arrogant Cthar warlord Grak, slipped into human territory. They targeted the outlying colonies. Small, distant worlds far from the military might of Earth. To the empires, these were nothing more than fragile settlements, ripe for the taking. They believed the humans would cry, complain, and then surrender. On the colony world of New Argos, the first attack fell. Cthar warships broke through the clouds, their plasma cannons raining fire upon the fledgling cities and hydroponic farms. The people of New Argos fought back. They fought with everything they had. A small defense fleet of 5 converted freighters, ground troops with kinetic rifles, civilian volunteers with mining lasers. Against the Cthar armada, their resistance was crushed in 3 days. The survivors were chained and paraded through the burning streets, the footage broadcast to the Council as proof of the triumvirate's strength. Warlord Grak sent a message to the High Archon. The human frontier is ours. They are too weak to resist. They break as easily as children. The chamber filled with applause. But not everyone joined the celebration. A few of the silent delegates, the observers, reviewed the battle logs from New Argos with growing unease. Despite the overwhelming force, the humans had fought with a ferocity that bordered on insanity. Even when defeat was certain, they refused to surrender. Pilots rammed their burning, crippled ships into Cthar cruisers. Soldiers on the ground used their own bodies to shield children. Farmers with rifles charged armored warwalkers. That kind of defiance was not normal. It was dangerous. Still, the triumvirate pushed further. More colonies were attacked. More settlements destroyed. Each time, the story was the same. Humans fought back with a suicidal bravery that baffled the triumvirate commanders. The aliens called it foolishness. They laughed at the pointless waste of life. But slowly, quietly, a creeping fear began to spread among their ground troops. They whispered stories in their barracks at night. Stories of humans who would fight with broken limbs. Of humans who would detonate their own power generators rather than let them be captured. Stories of a species that did not seem to fear death. After the fall of the third colony, Earth and its core worlds went quiet. The heart of humanity gave no reply. No message of surrender. No desperate plea for peace. The silence itself became a weapon, feeding a subtle unease into the galaxy. The triumvirate leaders interpreted the silence as fear. They told themselves Earth was breaking, that humanity was too shocked and terrified to fight back. They mistook patience for weakness, and in their arrogance, they marched deeper into human space, hungry for more. On the world of Alicia 7, something unusual happened. As the triumvirate fleet approached, human settlers evacuated in perfect, disciplined order. They left behind a ghost colony and a trap. The invaders laughed at the primitive spatial mines they detected, easily disabling them. They landed their troops in the empty city, claiming victory. But the traps they saw were not the real traps. That night, hidden fusion charges, buried deep beneath the city's foundations and shielded from scanners, detonated. The entire city, along with 10,000 triumvirate soldiers, was consumed in a ball of white-hot fire. Rumors spread through the triumvirate fleet. The humans are planning something. The commanders dismissed the rumors. They believed only in numbers, in fleets, in the sheer, overwhelming power of their ancient empires. They did not see that humanity's greatest weapon was something else entirely. Patience, memory, and the absolute, unshakable will to survive. The galaxy had expected noise, loud protests, desperate pleas, cries for help. But after the raids, after the burned colonies and the defiant last stands, humanity did not scream. Humanity went quiet. This silence unsettled the galaxy more than any battle could. Messages from Earth, which had been infrequent, now stopped entirely. Human ambassadors were recalled. Human trade ships vanished from common routes. It was as if the humans had stepped back into the shadows, watching, waiting. The triumvirate empires told themselves this was fear. But deep down, a few commanders felt something else. Dread. Strange reports began to arrive from the frontier. Triumvirate patrol ships, sent to probe the edges of human space, failed to return. Not just one or two. Entire squadrons. Vanished. Fleets that crossed too deep into the silent territory found only wreckage drifting in the dark. Ships broken apart by weapons no one could identify. Some wrecks looked as if they had been melted from the inside out. Others were sliced cleanly in half, the cuts so precise they defied explanation. And always, there were no survivors. No distress calls. Just silence. At first, the triumvirate claimed these were accidents. Unstable human technology. Reactor failures. But the whispers spread through their lower ranks. Soldiers who had fought humans on the colonies told their stories. Stories of a species that never gave up, that always found a way to strike back. The silence of humanity was beginning to feel less like surrender and more like a trap. On the occupied colony of Eridian, triumvirate soldiers celebrated their victory in the streets. They mocked the human prisoners, calling them broken and weak. That night, a strange, tight-beam signal passed through the sky. A human transmission. Short, cold, encrypted. It contained only 2 words. Remember us. Within hours, the main triumvirate barracks exploded in a storm of fire. No one ever discovered how the humans did it. Sabotage from within. An orbital strike from a cloaked ship? The message was clear. Humanity had not forgotten. The council grew restless. Some members demanded that the triumvirate halt its advance, warning that the silence was dangerous. But the triumvirate, still blind with arrogance, pushed deeper. They seized more human worlds. Yet the farther they went, the stranger the resistance became. Human colonies did not fight pitched battles anymore. They used traps, ambushes, sabotage. A single human freighter, broadcasting a distress signal, would lure triumvirate cruisers into a hidden minefield. Small human fighters, which should have been no match for capital ships, would disappear into asteroid belts, striking at engines and bridges before vanishing again. Even when defeated, human soldiers left behind poisoned water supplies, broken machines, and collapsed tunnels. Nothing was surrendered whole. Every victory felt hollow. Every step forward cost more than expected. One Zenth commander wrote in his classified report, "It is like fighting shadows. We win every battle, but it feels as if we are losing the war." Still, the leaders ignored such words. Then came the disappearances. Entire triumvirate fleets, 30 or 40 ships strong, would enter a human system and never be seen again. No distress calls, no survivors, just an unnerving silence where a fleet used to be. The triumvirate tried to hide the truth, but rumors spread faster than fire. Soldiers spoke of ghost fleets and void demons. Civilians whispered of human monsters that could tear ships apart from the inside. Even the council chambers grew tense whenever the human campaign was discussed. One delegate finally stood and said what others feared to admit. "This is not surrender," he whispered. "This is preparation." But by then, it was already too late. In the stillness of space, human war machines waited, unseen. In the silence of Earth, strategies were being written that would break empires. And in the hearts of every human, a quiet fury burned brighter with each passing day. The galaxy had mistaken this silence for fear, but soon they would understand. Humanity was not quiet because it was broken. Humanity was quiet because T was R-E-D-Y. The first sign of the storm came without warning. At the edge of a quiet, supposedly empty star system, a triumvirate fleet of 50 ships moved with confidence. Their mission was simple: push deeper into human space, capture another colony, and prove once again that humanity was weak. The triumvirate commander, a Lorian noble named Jorik, joked over his fleet's channel. "Perhaps we'll find their leaders hiding under a rock. I hear it's what primitives do." Then the shadows moved. From behind the dark side of a barren moon, something massive emerged. At first, the fleet's sensors registered it as a rogue asteroid, an unusually large one. But then the engines came alive. Not the familiar glow of plasma or fusion. This was a silent, brilliant blue fire, roaring from colossal thrusters. A single warship appeared. It was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, larger than the High Archon's own flagship. Its armor was jet black, sharp, and angular, a brutalist design that seemed to drink in the light of the nearby star. Along its surface, lines of crimson energy glowed like veins of fire. The triumvirate fleet panicked. "Identify that vessel," Commander Jorek screamed. "No identification, sir," the sensor officer cried out. "It's human. The energy signature profile matches nothing in our database, but the hull configuration, it's a human design philosophy, amplified by 1,000. Sensors screamed warnings. Weapons locked onto the human ship, and in seconds, the void filled with fire. Missiles, energy beams, and plasma bolts struck the massive hull. But the human ship did not flinch. The attacks burned against its armor like rain against a mountain of obsidian. Its shields, a technology no one had ever seen before, flickered with a faint gray light, absorbing every single shot without strain. Then, humanity answered. A single broadside lit up the darkness. It wasn't a barrage of weapons. It was a wave of pure, focused kinetic energy. Blinding lances tore across space, cutting through triumvirate ships as if they were made of paper. Entire cruisers split cleanly in half, their internal decks exposed to the vacuum for a split second before they erupted in silent fireballs. In less than 1 minute, 10 ships were gone. The surviving aliens tried to retreat, but the human ship was faster. Its weapons were sharper. Its defenses were unbreakable. It was not just a ship. It was AMESSG. Across the galaxy, reports began to flood the Council. Triumvirate fleets, vanishing. Outposts destroyed. Human warships, massive, terrifying, unstoppable, appearing from the darkness, striking without warning, and leaving nothing behind but shattered wreckage and terrified survivors. The silence had ended, and what followed was thunder. In the council chamber, the mood had changed. The laughter was gone. The smug arrogance was gone. Fear now sat in every corner. "They have a dreadnought," High Archon Valerius demanded. "A single ship capable of engaging a fleet of 50? How is this possible?" But the triumvirate leaders, blinded by their rage and humiliation, refused to admit defeat. "They have revealed their trump card," Warlord Grak declared. "They have one, maybe two of these super ships. We will gather our forces. We will overwhelm them with numbers. We will crush this rebellion once and for all." They rallied their fleets. Hundreds of ships. The largest armada the galaxy had seen in centuries. The combined might of 3 ancient empires. The armada entered human space with banners of war raised high. Yet waiting for them was silence once more. No resistance. No sign of the colossal human dreadnought. Only the empty, beckoning black of space. And then, the trap was sprung. From hidden stations disguised as asteroids, from cloaked positions in the corona of a star, from the darkness itself, humanity struck. Waves of guided kinetic weapons, moving at a fraction of the speed of light, ripped through the triumvirate armada before it could even form its battle lines. Human warships then emerged from the void, smaller than the colossal flagship, but still unlike anything seen before. They moved with an impossible, silent speed, their weapons tearing through shields as if they did not exist. Alien commanders screamed for order. Ships scattered, trying to regroup, but the humans gave them no chance. Every triumvirate formation collapsed under relentless coordinate. Fire. Entire wings of ships vanished in silent, white explosions. Within 3 hours, what had been the galaxy's greatest armada became a field of twisted, burning wreckage drifting in the dark. The galaxy watched in horror. News of the slaughter spread faster than light. Humanity had crushed the invincible fleet. And humanity did not stop. One by one, triumvirate strongholds began to fall. Border worlds burned. Fortresses crumbled. The humans advanced with a cold, terrifying precision, destroying only what resisted, sparing those who surrendered, but accepting no negotiations. They did not boast. They did not laugh. They simply marched forward, an unstoppable force of nature. On the captured Cthar capital world, a human commander, clad in black power armor, sent a message to the council. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but every word carried the weight of doom. "You were warned. We asked for peace. You brought US war." He paused, letting the image of the burning Cthar cityscape behind him sink in. "Now you will see the cost." The galaxy trembled. The warnings were no longer echoes of the past. They were the fiery, brutal reality. Humanity had risen from silence, and in its fury, no empire was safe. The reckoning had begun. They did not boast. They did not laugh. They simply marched forward, an unstoppable force of nature. On the captured Cthar capital world, a human commander, clad in black power armor, sent a message to the council. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but every word carried the weight of doom. You were warned. We asked for peace. You brought US war. He paused, letting the image of the burning Cthar cityscape behind him sink in. Now you will see the cost. The galaxy trembled. The warnings were no longer echoes of the past. They were the fiery, brutal reality. Humanity had risen from silence, and in its fury, no empire was safe. The reckoning had begun. They did not boast. They did not laugh. They simply marched forward, an unstoppable force of nature. On the captured Cthar capital world, a human commander, clad in black power armor, sent a message to the council. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but every word carried the weight of doom. You were warned. We asked for peace. You brought US war. He paused, letting the image of the burning Cthar cityscape behind him sink in. Now you will see the cost. The galaxy trembled. The warnings were no longer echoes of the past. They were the fiery, brutal reality. Humanity had risen from silence, and in its fury, no empire was safe. The reckoning had begun. They did not boast. They did not laugh. They simply marched forward, an unstoppable force of nature. On the captured Cthar capital world, a human commander, clad in black power armor, sent a message to the council. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but every word carried the weight of doom. You were warned. We asked for peace. You brought US war. He paused, letting the image of the burning Cthar cityscape behind him sink in. Now you will see the cost. The galaxy trembled. The warnings were no longer echoes of the past. They were the fiery, brutal reality. Humanity had risen from silence, and in its fury, no empire was safe. The reckoning had begun.